How do you write a sophisticated synthesis essay? In this video, I'm going to offer you my advice on doing just that. Remember, the idea here is to blend sources in service of an argument. So let me turn off my camera and we'll talk about how to do it. AP English Language is a college composition course, as you know. So the purpose of this task is to ensure that in this course you are practicing research writing, because all university composition courses involve research. As we know, there are three essay tasks. We've been through rhetorical analysis and argumentation already. And in this task, you are given half a dozen perspectives on a topic, so it's a range of opinions. And your job is to consider those and then write an argument citing at least three of the provided sources in your line of reasoning. This is what the prompt looks like. It'll always be divided into four components. We begin with the background on the topic. The topic in this case is the establishment of large-scale commercial-grade wind farms. Then you're going to get the task itself in this second piece. And the task here is to develop a position on the important factors, the most important factors an individual or agency should consider when deciding whether to establish a wind farm. Then we get a concise list of sources. And then we have this set of bullet points down here, which, as you know, kind of align with the rubric. This is what you're being assessed on. So that's how it appears. This is what the sources typically look like. As you can see, there are usually 6, and 4 of them are text-based. These are always about 500 words per source, and they're going to feature a range of perspectives and opinions. They will not all agree with each other. And you'll also get an image. Sometimes that will be a political cartoon, or it could be another form of visual art. And you'll also get a qualitative or data-based source. It could be a graph or a chart, but it will always involve numerical data. So this is the range of perspectives you're going to see after you've seen the topic. Timing is important here. Typically, students think they really need to hurry. You worry about the ticking clock, and I understand that. It's an exam, right? So the College Board gives you 15 minutes plus 40 minutes per essay, and you get to budget it any way you like. Here's the thing. If you really want to produce a sophisticated synthesis essay, you've got to be careful about your reading and annotation. You don't want to rush this. Okay, that's the key. Don't rush your reading. To be honest, you've probably practiced writing essays in less than 40 minutes. I bet you, if you know what you're doing already, if you've already got a game plan, you can probably write a very strong essay in maybe 35 minutes. So don't feel like you can only spend 15 minutes reading and annotating. I would recommend you spend at least 15 on the synthesis and maybe 10 more on the rhetorical analysis. Don't rush your reading. Let's compare the two most common organizational approaches to writing timed synthesis essays. This is why, and you'll see why we want to be careful about how we read. We're looking at two different essay approaches here. Each gray box represents a paragraph. On the left, we see the most common approach. This student read the sources, took a position, and supported it with 3 body paragraphs, each one supporting the thesis or the student's position. The essay even concludes with an original claim, not simply restating the thesis. This one is going to be a policy claim here. So if you know stasis theory, you know these things already. And this could very well demonstrate competence because the student then supported that position with 3 body paragraphs, each one explaining how a particular source supports the thesis. So if it's well written enough, this could definitely demonstrate competence. Here's the thing, though. Even though the line of reasoning presents these sources in a logical order, they're actually not synthesized. And remember, synthesis involves blending sources in service of an argument. This line of reasoning is really 3 little reports on different sources, and they are organized logically, presumably in support of this thesis. But I call this a fruit salad. I can still see, it's mixed, by the way, and it's satisfying. I like fruit salads, but I can still see the berries. I can see the chunks of melon and pineapple. It's good, but I'm looking for a smoothie. That's what a synthesis is. In the essay on the right, and I offer 5 paragraphs in these 2 essays, by the way, just because that's so common. The number of paragraphs in these essays is absolutely irrelevant to your success. But notice the difference in the line of reasoning here. The intro and the conclusion are identical in these left and right models. But in this line of reasoning, the student turned on the blender. This is a smoothie. By developing a line of reasoning based on concepts or reasons, This student is able to then synthesize information from multiple sources into that line of reasoning, and this invariably results in a more sophisticated essay. The key to doing this well is reading and annotating for concepts and claims. We don't want to rush, okay? So how do we do that? Well, here's what that sort of reading and annotation looks like. I'm going to look just at source C. Now, each source has a bibliography, a little bibliography at the top, so that you can weigh the credibility of each source. That's important too. But source C here, we're going to read for concepts and claims and annotate for those. The clock's ticking, but I don't want you to rush too much. Here's what we see here, okay? As we read through this source, we see that the key concept here is that noise causes sleep deprivation for residents near turbines. That's what it says here. Anecdotal evidence strongly suggests a connection between turbines and a bunch of symptoms. Look at all these awful things, right? So they tend to have powerful adverse effects. This source is a con. It's going to argue against developing wind farms. Now I've got to figure out whether I want to accept the claims I see or whether I want to question them. If you've had some practice reading with and against the grain, playing the believing and doubting game in class, you're ready for this. I can see that the claims here are that sleep interference gets worse the nearer residents are to turbines. I tend to believe this in my reading, and I don't have a whole lot of time, so I am moving fairly quickly, primarily because they're providing three convincing examples here, right? 1, 2, 3. Here we go. It's often deemed more annoying than the hum or roar of transportation noise. Turbines can sound louder overnight, and these lower frequencies tend to be judged as more annoying than higher frequencies and are more likely to travel through walls and windows. I'm inclined to believe that. I'm going to move on to my next source now, but I've got one that I've quickly identified as a con. Here's the main theme of it, and here's why I'm inclined to accept the claims I see here. That's what I'm annotating for, concepts and claims. Because when it's time for me to develop my position, I want to be able to support it with reasons that I've pulled from multiple sources instead of supporting it with individual sources. So let's look at the task again. Write an essay that synthesizes material from at least 3 of the sources and develops your position on the most important factors an individual agency should consider before deciding whether to establish a wind farm. That's a mouthful, right? So let's break it down a little bit. Your position on, that's telling me it's an argument. 2 things. 1, the most important factors an individual or agency should consider. That strikes me as a call to offer a claim of quality or an evaluation. It's a judgment, right? And 2, when deciding whether to establish a wind farm. That seems to me to be a claim of policy invitation, right? I get to make a recommendation. So it's asking me to do 2 things. And remember, thesis by definition equals your position on the issue. So it doesn't say thesis statement. Your thesis is your overall stance. I'm going to probably follow this prompt and come up with 2 claims that comprise my thesis. It's going to be a double. So here we go. The most important factors, well, after reading all the sources, of course, and you can go read all 6 if you like. It's on, not only is this one, it's the 2019 synthesis on AP Central. You can also find this in AP Classroom. So in the evaluation category, while there are aesthetic drawbacks for local communities, the economic and environmental advantages of wind farms offer global benefits. That is my evaluative claim. The policy claim: inconveniencing a few local communities is necessary for our planet's survival. We should prioritize wind energy. I've got 2 strong global claims here that comprise my thesis. What am I going to do with them? Well, I'm going to use them as the bookends for my essay. Now I've got to develop my line of reasoning. So again, this is my thesis, my initial central claim, we'll call it. While there are aesthetic drawbacks for local communities, the economic and environmental advantages offer global benefits. I need to come up with reasons from those 6 sources. So let's list my reasons. Here's one. At the local level, both noise pollution and visual blight are inevitable results of wind farms. We looked at source C closely. We didn't look at source E, but that one describes the visual negatives of wind farms. So I've got 2 sources that can support that reason. My next reason, and I'll throw a transition in just for fun. However, tremendous economic benefits are widespread. Source D is a narrative about Texas ranchers who found economic benefits from wind farms. And then my third reason, moreover, another transition, The energy efficiency of wind farms will provide lasting environmental benefits for generations of people in multiple regions. And I'm going to provide two sources in support of that. Source F is the graph that speaks to energy efficiency. Source B describes in a narrative environmental benefits. So there we go. I've got a line of reasoning now that blends sources in service of my stance. Now I've got to conclude, and I want to offer an original conclusion. In fact, the best way to think of conclusions is not as an ending. Another way to think of conclude is, what did I learn? What did I conclude from doing this? So it is the end, but you should offer what you learned as your concluding idea. So what did I learn? What can or should be done? This is where we often see effective policy claims employed. Well, let's go back to that original stance. And I had two claims. Remember, in addition to this evaluative claim, I had this policy claim. We should prioritize wind energy. So I'm going to use this as my concluding idea. All right. Inconveniencing a few local communities is necessary. We should prioritize wind energy. And now I'm going to build out my full synthesis into a smoothie. I'm going to turn on the blender. Watch this. We've got our central claim. While there are aesthetic drawbacks for local communities, the economic and environmental advantages of wind farms offer global benefits. Reason one, at the local level, both noise pollution and visual blight are inevitable results of wind farms. I can support that with source C and with source E. Of course, this is just an outline, but you know what to do from here. However, notice my line of reasoning now is falling into place. Tremendous economic benefits are widespread. I can speak to source D in support of that. Moreover, the energy efficiency of wind farms will provide lasting environmental benefits for generations of people in multiple regions. I can support this third reason with two sources, discussing F and B as evidence. I've now managed, by the way, to weave 5 different sources into 3 body paragraphs. It's still concise, and it looks like a smoothie to me. Before I conclude finally with this call to action, inconveniencing a few local communities is necessary for our planet's survival. We should prioritize wind energy. So, of course, you'd have to flesh this out further. It's just an outline. But if I take some time to carefully read for concepts and claims and categorize them into claims I accept and claims I want to question or reject, these top 2, I'm going to acknowledge them, but I'm then going to pivot and counter them. I'm going to say they're less important. All right. So reading with and against the grain and reading for concepts will help you produce not just a fruit salad, but a smoothie. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you found that helpful. Again, that was the 2019 AP English Language and Composition Synthesis prompt in case you want to go check it out a little more closely. I hope you found that helpful.